I've never seen anybody respond to a crisis with that outpouring of energy. And when you think about the skills and the sophistication and the energy people brought, it was an amazing experience. Amazing.
And for me, having, this, it was what I do, but it was so rewarding to work with people who cared. I've done that for some other issues in my life, and there's nothing like it. We looked at the legislature and had to figure a strategy on how you take AIDS, which was a scary issue then. The issue of the gay community was a hard issue, and ACT UP was going on at the time. And we had to figure a strategy that overcome some obstacles, or philosophical obstacles for some legislators, and we advanced the issue.
So with the health department, Seattle-King County Public Health was so instrumental in all of this. And along with the AIDS Foundation and the Dorian Group and others in the gay community. And we put together something called the ASAP Coalition, AIDS Services and Prevention. And it included Safeco Insurance, it included the Catholic Church, it included the Medical Association, the Hospital Association, Group Health, really the coalition of people that would need to be behind this if we were going to go forward. And we had some very tough conversations, as you might imagine. And we agreed in the coalition that we would agree on the things that we could agree upon. We would work hard not to counter each other in those areas where we were not in agreement, but that was an issue for individual organizations. And another big sticking point, and this was an issue, within the coalition, was how we were going to deal with testing at a time when having a positive test in your medical records was causing some terrible life repercussions for folks, losing insurance, losing jobs. After some very difficult conversations with our board, spoke up in favor of testing for convicted sex offenders. And ACT UP had packed the room and they stood up and booed. I was outshouted.
Part of the opposition being the conservative fear of AIDS, the stigma to the whole issue. A part of our strategy had to deal with all these oppositions, and one of them was ACT UP, because you had very strong feelings and a strong activist mood, and what that would do would take people on the fence and spook them. And what it would do would take someone who says, I don't know, and then all of a sudden ACT UP comes in and raises hell, and they say, heck, get out of here. I'm done. I'm not voting for this thing. So that was part of a strategy, is to deal with our own people who cared a lot, but from a political standpoint, could torpedo it.
So all of those things, it's like being in a crucible with extraordinary pressures, and what happened on one side had, probably two effects on the other side.
From a political standpoint, we had the governor, which was no problem. We had the House, which is run by Democrats, and they were, by and large, had no problem with the issue. We had good supporters. We had problems among some of them, but we knew we could get it through the House. The big problem was the Senate. So our strategy had to concentrate on that, because all the way through the process, the Senate could stop it. When the bill got over to the Senate, if we hadn't worked out a way to overcome opposition, they had the ability to stop it and the mood to stop it. They didn't want to deal with it.
No. And, I'll add one thing to what you said about the governor, too, which is the governor was on board. That was Governor Gardner. But he thought that 700,000 was the right number. And we thought it was more like 10 million. I ended up going to see an Eastern Washington senator who asked me not to sit down, and that if he had known who I was and what I was coming about, he would not have made the appointment. And because he did not have any gay people in his district, and he found this a moral problem for him. So there I go. I sit down and I say, so, even if you don't believe, if you had a son or a daughter, would you want them to have to die for a mistake, even if you believe it's a mistake? So we had a lot of that to overcome.
We worked the bill through the House, got it to the Senate. It wasn't easy, but we worked over the objections of the people, answered most of them, and got enough votes to get it out of committee. The bill then, after it passed the Senate, had to go to the House. They made some changes in it. I'm not too clear on details here, but came back to the Senate. So we had worked all these members with our whole coalition. B, do you want to walk us up to the end? Because it was where they stopped the clock.
Yeah.
Here's where Bobby Bridge was masterful.
Masterful. And so time was literally running out. Time was running out. And there was one vote more that we needed. And so Ian's going to know more about this, but between Ian and Bobby and Jim of the Dorian group, they were able to, one, get someone in the Senate to climb up on a ladder and literally turn the clock back a few minutes. And I think, Ian, that was you. And then Jim and Bobby got someone from the Archdiocese of Spokane to call a senator off the floor and to ask him to vote in favor.
So Bobby said, let's talk to the bishop in Spokane. And we were sitting in the gallery, and the church had problems with the issue, but they were committed to doing what we were doing. And we were standing in the gallery watching the floor, and I saw Paige come over to the Senator Stratton's desk and say, you have a telephone call. And she went back to the wings. They had stopped the clock. Lieutenant Governor Sherberg was working to help us then. Dan McDonald, who was a Republican majority leader, was so mad at what was happening that he walked off the floor. But with the Lieutenant Governor, who was a Democrat, backing us up, that gave us a few minutes to make that phone call. Lois Stratton came back on the floor with her head down, and she was crying. And she sat down at her desk and put her head down, and they started the roll call, and she voted yes. And it was one of the saddest times, but it's also what politics is about. What we did with the foundation and the board was work with every member on who they were and who they listened to, who would affect them. And it was a remarkable piece of legislation nationally. We're one of the first states to do anything.
The first.
It was the model that was used elsewhere in the country.
Yep.
And I think the Northwest States Foundation and that board deserve a lot of credit for doing good
and that board and public health. I just can't say enough. Without the coalition, and public health was actually funding the Northwest States Foundation to do a lot. So it was a landmark in that it hadn't been done before. It was pioneering, definitely, again, for the very same reasons. And it, was used by others across the country. And it was used both as, a model for the legislation itself, and also it was the first time that the states had really gotten involved at this level. So both in policy and funding. So it led the way and opened the doors for other states.
I don't know, I guess I'd just say it was a BFD. It was a big,
yeah, that's right.
a big deal.
Yeah, it was.
It was.